This is my scream into the abyss, my heart ripped open, my truth carved into words, because if I don't get this out, it'll consume me. I'm Lena, 34, a single mom clawing through life in a world that feels designed to break me. Nothing could have prepared me for the moment my sister-in-law, Claire, the golden child of my ex-husband's family, raised her manicured hand and slapped my 7-year-old son, Theo, across the face. My boy, my light, with his wild curls and endless questions, his laughter a defiant spark in the gray fog of my existence. She hit him for laughing too loud, for being a child, for daring to exist in her perfect, sterile world. And my ex-husband, Mark, the man I once thought was my safe harbor, laughed, a cruel, guttural sound that echoed in my bones. His parents, Richard and Patricia, smirked, their eyes glinting with amusement, as if Theo's pain was a sideshow. They forgot about the microphone, a tiny device humming in the corner, recording every second of their cruelty for a family video project meant to glorify their legacy. I have that recording now. I have the proof. And I'm going to make Claire's pristine life crumble, not for revenge, but for Theo, for justice, for every child who's ever been silenced by a family's cruelty. Where are you reading this from? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe if you believe kids deserve to be safe, even from their own family. This isn't about pity. This is about truth. Growing up in my childhood home was like living in a mausoleum, a gray brick house in a forgotten suburb where the air was thick with judgment and the walls seemed to lean in, suffocating. I was the scapegoat, the one who could never do right, always too loud, too messy, too much. My parents' voices still echo in my head. Why can't you be more like Claire? Claire, my sister-in-law, was the family's crown jewel, polished, poised, the daughter they wished I'd been. She got private schools, summer internships, and endless praise for her straight-A report cards and perfect manners. I got lectures, cold stares, and a bedroom that felt like a cell, its peeling wallpaper a constant reminder of my inadequacy. Mark, my ex-husband, was their enforcer, nodding along when his parents tore into me, telling me to calm down when I dared question their rules. I learned early to shrink, to bite my tongue until it bled, to survive by making myself invisible. I thought I'd escaped when I met Mark at 21. He was a mechanic, steady and quiet, with calloused hands and a smile that promised a life where I could breathe. We married too fast, in a courthouse under flickering fluorescent lights, the buzz of the bulbs like a warning I ignored. His family came, their smiles tight, their whispers cutting, my thrift store dress, my unrefined vows. Claire gave a toast, her voice honeyed venom. Even broken things can find a home. The room laughed. I smiled because I had to, because I thought Mark was my freedom. We moved into a cramped apartment in a rundown complex, paint peeling, pipes groaning, but it was ours. I got a job answering phones at a dental office, the pay barely covering rent, but I felt free. Or so I thought. Theo arrived when I was 27, a squirming bundle of chaos and love, with Mark's hazel eyes and my stubborn streak. He was perfect, his laughter filling our tiny apartment, his endless, why questions a challenge I met with joy. I swore he'd never feel what I felt growing up, never know the sting of being told he wasn't enough. But Mark changed when Theo was 4. He'd come home late, reeking of grease and something sharper, his patience fraying. I found receipts, a woman's name, Lisa, scrawled on one. When I confronted him, he called me paranoid, said I was making things up again. We fought, screamed, until I was too tired to care. By Theo's 5th birthday, we were divorced. I didn't tell his family about the cheating, just said we grew apart. They still made it my fault. You never could keep a man happy, Patricia hissed over the phone. What did you expect? Single motherhood is a marathon with no finish line. My job at the dental office barely covers rent, daycare, Theo's asthma meds. Sometimes I'd swallow my pride and ask Mark's parents for help. $100 for a car repair, $50 for school supplies. Each time, they'd send the money with a lecture about my poor choices. Claire, meanwhile, was untouchable. She'd climbed the ranks at a glossy PR firm, married Greg, a lawyer with a trust fund, and lived in a sleek, Modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows and a lawn so perfect it looked fake. No kids because we're focused on our careers, she'd say, her voice dripping with superiority, as if my life was a warning label. Mark's parents worshipped her, held her up as the standard I'd never reach. If you just tried harder, Richard would say, you could have been something. I kept taking Theo to see them because I thought he deserved a family, grandparents, an aunt, something bigger than our apartment with its flickering lights and second-hand couch. I thought I could shield him, absorb their venom before it reached him. So when the family reunion rolled around at their sprawling, oppressive house in a nowhere town, an old Victorian monstrosity with creaking floors and a facade that hid its rot, I said yes. For Theo. For the idea of family. You sure? My friend just asked, her voice sharp with worry. Those people are vipers. It's just a weekend, I said, ignoring the knot in my stomach. Theo loves their backyard. I can handle it. Theo was electric the whole drive, singing songs about dinosaurs and spaceships, his voice a bright thread weaving through my anxiety. Will Aunt Claire be there? And Grandpa? Can I show them my new book? He asked, clutching a dog-eared picture book about planets, its pages worn from his constant reading. Yeah, buddy, I said, forcing a smile. Just be your awesome self, okay? I was lying to myself, thinking I could keep him safe in that house, that I could outrun the past. You can't protect a kid by throwing them into a pit of snakes. The house loomed like a predator, its gray Victorian facade peeling at the edges, windows glinting like cold, unblinking eyes. I parked our beat-up hatchback next to Claire's sleek Audi, Mark's dusty truck, and his parents' gleaming SUV, their wealth screaming in chrome and polish. Theo was out before I could stop him, running toward the backyard, his book flapping in his hand, his laughter echoing off the overgrown oaks. Slow down, I called, but he was a blur of joy, oblivious to the tension coiling in my chest. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with the scent of lavender candles and unspoken judgment. Patricia greeted us in a silk blouse, her smile sharp as a blade. You're late, she said, her eyes raking over my faded jeans, Theo's mismatched socks. Traffic, I muttered, hating how small I felt. Mark was there, leaning against the kitchen counter, a drink already in his hand, his eyes sliding past me like I was nothing. Claire swept in, all heels and perfect hair, Greg trailing behind like a well-trained dog. Well, look who made it, she said, her voice a knife wrapped in velvet. And little Theo, still so energetic. Theo didn't notice, too busy showing his book to anyone who'd look, babbling about Jupiter's moons, his voice bright and unfiltered. I saw how they watched him, Richard with a frown, Patricia with a sigh, Claire with a smirk that made my skin crawl. The house buzzed with relatives, cousins, in-laws, aunts, all playing their parts in this twisted family pageant. Mark's brother-in-law, Tom, was setting up a camera and wireless mic in the corner, muttering about capturing the family legacy for some documentary Richard insisted on. I caught Tom's eye, and he gave me a look that said he knew how rotten this all was. Gotta get the real moments, he said, half joking, his voice tight with unease. They put us in a guest room that felt like a punishment, a cramped box with a lumpy bed, a single window staring out at a brick wall, the air stale and heavy. Theo didn't care, bouncing on the mattress, asking if he could play outside. After we say hi to everyone, I said, my voice tight, already dreading the weekend. Dinner was a nightmare, a parade of their egos, Richard bragging about investments, Patricia critiquing the caterer's plating, Claire and Greg holding court about their latest European vacation. I picked at my food, keeping one eye on Theo at the kids' table, where Claire's nieces and nephews, all preppy and cruel, rolled their eyes when he tried to join their game, correcting his words like he was stupid. He's so loud, one of them whispered, loud enough for me to hear. I wanted to scream, but I swallowed it like always. Later, Patricia cornered me in the kitchen, her perfume choking the air. We could help you get a better job, she said, like my life was a stain she could scrub out. Claire's firm is hiring receptionists. I'm fine, I said, my jaw tight. I manage. She patted my arm, her rings cold against my skin. Just trying to help, dear. You've always struggled. I wanted to smash her wine glass against the wall. but I didn't. I went to bed instead. Theo curled up next to me, his breathing soft, the only thing keeping me from shattering. Morning came too fast, sunlight slicing through the thin curtains, the house already alive with noise. Theo woke buzzing, wearing his favorite dinosaur shirt, already talking about showing his book to everyone. "Can I read it to them, Mom?" he asked, his eyes so bright it hurt to look at them. "Sure, buddy," I said, my heart twisting. "Just wait for a good moment." The dining room was a stage, all of them performing. Richard pontificating about stocks, Patricia arranging plates like a general, Claire and Greg boasting about their latest charity gala. Theo sat with the other kids, trying so hard to fit in, his voice rising as he read from his book, facts about Mars spilling out like a song, his joy a defiance of the room's coldness. I saw Claire's face change, her eyes narrowing, her lips tightening into a line. She glanced at Mark, who shrugged, then at me, like I was supposed to silence Theo. I didn't. I let him talk, let his light fill the room, because he deserved it. But his voice got louder, excited, and Claire snapped. "Can you make him stop?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's giving me a headache." I started to stand to call Theo over, but before I could, Claire was up, her heels clicking like gunshots on the hardwood floor. I froze, my body betraying me, and then it happened. Her hand cracked across Theo's face, the sound echoing like a thunderclap. His book hit the floor, pages crumpling. His little body rocked back, his eyes wide with shock, confusion, the red mark blooming on his cheek like a wound. "You need to learn to shut up," Claire said, her voice cold, venomous, like she was proud of it. "Loud kids get nowhere in life." Mark laughed, a low, cruel chuckle that cut through me like a blade. Richard smirked, nodding like this was normal, and Patricia let out a little giggle like it was cute. The other kids stared, some grinning, some silent, but none moved. The room was a graveyard, and I was buried alive. I ran to Theo, scooping him up, his sobs shaking his whole body, his face pressed into my neck. "What is wrong with you?" I screamed at Claire, my voice raw, breaking. "He's 7. She crossed her arms, unfazed. "He needs to learn respect. You clearly haven't taught him." Mark leaned back in his chair, still smirking. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. He's fine." Richard folded his arms, his voice booming. "Kids need discipline. You're too soft, always have been." Patricia chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "You're overreacting, dear. He'll forget it by tomorrow." I was shaking, Theo's tears soaking my shirt, his small body trembling against me. And then I saw Tom, standing by his camera, his face pale, hands frozen on the equipment. The mic was on, recording every word, every laugh, every justification for hitting my child. Claire's eyes followed mine, and for a second, panic flickered across her face. She knew. They all knew. But they thought they could bury it, like they buried everything else. "We're leaving," I said, my voice low, dangerous, carrying Theo toward the stairs. "You're all monsters. Running away again?" Claire called after me, her voice sharp, mocking. "That's all you're good for." I didn't answer, just kept moving, Theo's weight the only thing anchoring me. In our room, I set him down, his face still red, his eyes puffy. "Mommy, why did Aunt Claire hit me?" he whispered, his voice so small it shattered me. "Was I bad?" "No," I said, tears burning my eyes, my voice shaking. "You were perfect. She was wrong. So wrong." I grabbed a washcloth, ran it under cold water, pressed it to his cheek, and packed our bags with trembling hands. I had to get us out. Now. Tom knocked softly, his voice low. "I got it all," he said. The slap, what she said, Mark's laugh, all of it. "I can get you a copy before they make me erase it." "Do it," I said, my voice a hiss. 20 minutes by my car. I called Jess, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "Claire hit Theo," I said, my voice breaking. "Slapped him for reading his book too loud." Mark laughed. They all did. "Get out," she said, her voice sharp with rage. "Come to my place. Now." I hung up, woke Theo gently. "We're going to Aunt Jess's," I said, trying to sound calm. He nodded, still quiet, still broken. Patricia caught us in the hallway, her face a mask of false concern. You're leaving? Over this? It was just a little discipline. A little discipline? I spat, shifting so she could see Theo's cheek, the mark still vivid. You call this discipline? She faltered, then recovered. You're too emotional. Always have been. Mark appeared, his voice cold. You're making a fool of yourself. Sit down, we'll talk it out. There's nothing to talk about, I said, pushing past him. You let her hit our son. He's my son too, he snapped, but I was already out the door, Theo's hand in mine. Tom met me by the car, slipping a USB drive into my hand. It's all there, he said. Be careful. They'll come for you. I nodded, too angry to speak, and drove. Theo fell asleep in the back seat, his face still red, and I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I was done. Done with their lies, their cruelty, their sick version of family. At Jess's apartment, a small, cluttered haven with mismatched furniture and warm light, we listened to the recording. The sound of Claire's hand hitting Theo's face was a gunshot in my skull, her cold voice saying he'd get nowhere, Mark's laugh, Richard's approval, Patricia's giggle. It was worse than I remembered, a distillation of evil in a few seconds. What now? Jess asked, her eyes blazing. Police. Maybe, I said, my mind racing. But they'll twist it. Say it's just discipline. They always do. I didn't sleep, just sat there, replaying it, my anger sharpening into a blade. The next day, I took Theo to a pediatrician, Dr. Ellis, who documented the bruise, her face tight with concern. He's showing signs of trauma, she said gently. Fear of adults, nightmares. Get him to a therapist. I nodded, my throat tight, hating myself for bringing him to that house. I called a lawyer friend, Sarah, from high school, showed her the recording. It's assault, she said, her voice grim. But they'll fight dirty. You need to be smart. Smart. I wasn't smart. I was furious, raw, ready to burn it all down. Claire's life was perfect, wasn't it? Big job at Pinnacle PR, big house, big reputation. She sat on boards, gave speeches about empowering women, posted inspirational quotes online. What a lie. I found her company's ethics policy, their zero-tolerance stance on violence. I found the children's charity she chaired, the one that protected kids. I edited the audio, just the slap, her words, Mark's laugh, no commentary, just the raw truth. I sent it to her boss, the charity board, the women's leadership group she led. I didn't ask for money, didn't threaten. Just wrote, you should know who you're working with. The fallout was immediate. Claire called, screaming, you're trying to ruin me. This is defamation. Her voice cracked, panicked. It's the truth, I said and hung up. Mark texted, threatening to sue, to take Theo away, to make me regret it. His parents called, begging, then yelling, saying I destroyed the family. I blocked them all. Tom called, whispering, Claire's been suspended. The charity dropped her. They're freaking out. Good, I thought. Let them burn. Theo woke screaming that night, saying Claire was chasing him, her hand raised. I held him, rocking him, promising he was safe, but I didn't feel safe. I felt like a cornered animal, ready to bite. Jess watched me, worried. You're scaring me, she said. You're not yourself. Myself got my son hurt, I snapped. Myself was weak. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks, and Claire's perfect life unraveled. Pinnacle PR demoted her to a desk job, no client contact, her name scrubbed from their website. The charity blacklisted her, issuing a statement about their commitment to child welfare. Her social circle turned, whispering behind her back, canceling invitations. Mark tried to spin it, telling everyone I was crazy, jealous, a liar. But the recording didn't lie. People heard it, shared it, and the truth spread like wildfire. Strangers messaged me, sharing their own stories of family abuse, of being silenced, dismissed. I didn't want their stories. I just wanted Theo to be okay. He wasn't okay. Not yet. He was quiet, stopped talking about planets, flinched when men raised their voices. I took him to Dr. Carter, a child therapist, who said he was showing signs of acute stress, nightmares, fear of authority figures, a reluctance to play as he used to. He'll heal, she said, with time and support. I clung to that, pouring everything into making our apartment a sanctuary. I painted the walls a soft blue, hung Theo's drawings, played his favorite music. Anything to bring back his spark. I started researching Claire's world, her connections, her vulnerabilities. She'd built her career on a facade of compassion, but the recording exposed her. I sent it to a local news outlet anonymously, with a note about her role in the community. They ran a story, vague but damning, about a prominent PR executive involved in a disturbing family incident. Social media exploded, people connecting the dots, her name trending for all the wrong reasons. Claire's messages turned from rage to desperation. Please call me. We can fix this. I didn't respond. Mark's threats grew wilder. Lawsuits, custody battles, accusations of mental instability. His parents offered money to make it go away. I refused it all. This wasn't about money. It was about Theo, about breaking the cycle of cruelty. A month later, Mark's grandmother, Evelyn, summoned the family to her colonial-style home, a relic of old money with heavy drapes and mahogany furniture. This has gone too far, she said over the phone, her voice sharp but weary. We need to resolve this. I hesitated, but Dr. Carter advised against bringing Theo. He shouldn't be exposed to more conflict, she said. Jess offered to watch him, and I went alone, my stomach knotted with dread. The living room was a battlefield, the air thick with tension. Mark sat on the sofa, arms crossed, his face dark with anger. Claire stood by the fireplace, her usual polish gone, eyes red-rimmed. Patricia and Richard sat stiffly, their faces masks of indignation. Other relatives, cousins, aunts, filled the room, their usual chatter replaced by uneasy silence. Evelyn entered last, leaning on a cane, her presence commanding at 85. I've heard the recording, she said, her voice cutting through the room. I know what happened, and I'm ashamed of this family. Mark straightened. She's blowing it out of proportion, Grandma. It was just a slap. Evelyn's eyes flashed. A grown woman striking a child for reading a book is not just anything. It's abuse. Claire's voice trembled. It wasn't that hard. Everyone's overreacting. Evelyn turned on her. You don't get to decide the impact of your actions. Theo is traumatized. And you, Mark, laughing like it was nothing? You're as guilty as she is. Patricia tried to intervene. Lena's always been dramatic. She's using this to attack Claire. Evelyn cut her off. Enough. I raised your husband, Patricia. I saw how Richard disciplined Mark too harshly, and I did nothing. I won't make that mistake again. The room fell silent, years of unspoken truths rising to the surface. Relatives began speaking. Mark's cousin Anna admitted seeing Claire shove her nephew at a previous reunion. His Aunt Laura recalled Claire's temper flaring at a family picnic. A pattern emerged, one of unchecked aggression enabled by silence. I spoke at last, my voice steady despite the shaking in my hands. This isn't about punishment. It's about Theo. He's scared to talk now, scared to be himself. Claire took that from him, and you all let her. Mark's face darkened. You sent that recording to ruin her. You're jealous, always have been. Jealous. I laughed, bitter. I'm protecting my son. Something you should have done. The meeting stretched for hours, voices rising, old wounds reopening. Evelyn's verdict was final. This family needs to heal. But it starts with accountability. Claire, Mark, you've lost our trust. Claire stormed out, Mark following, their parents trailing with weak protests. As I left, Evelyn took my hand. You did what I couldn't, she said softly. You protected your child. 6 months later, our lives were transforming. Theo was healing, slowly. Dr. Carter reduced his sessions to bi-weekly, noting his progress. He's starting to play again, she said. He's singing his dinosaur songs. I cried when she told me, the weight of guilt lifting slightly. I'd painted our apartment walls with stars, bought Theo a telescope, enrolled him in a science club where he could talk about planets without fear. His laughter was returning, tentative but real. Claire's world collapsed further. Pinnacle PR let her go, citing reputational concerns. The charity issued a public statement disavowing her. Her marriage to Greg was unraveling, his family distancing themselves after the scandal. She called once, her voice broken, asking for forgiveness. I didn't answer. Mark's threats faded as his own life frayed. His shop lost clients, his reputation tarnished by association. His parents tried to reconcile, offering awkward apologies, but I set firm boundaries. No contact with Theo until they acknowledged the harm and committed to change. I joined a support group for parents navigating family trauma, finding solace in shared stories. I started speaking at community events, sharing our experience, urging others to break cycles of abuse. My job at the dental office led to a promotion, office manager, a small raise that meant I no longer needed Mark's parents' money. The independence felt like freedom. One evening, 7 months after the incident, we hosted a gathering at our apartment. Jess, Tom and his kids, support group friends, even Evelyn. Theo stood by the window, sunlight on his face, and sang a song about the solar system, his voice clear and unafraid. The room applauded, Evelyn's eyes misty. "He's extraordinary," she said. I nodded, tears in my eyes. This was our healing, not just surviving, but reclaiming joy. The journey isn't over. There will be more hard days, more boundaries to hold. But I'm no longer the girl who shrank to survive. I'm a mother who fought for her son, who turned pain into power. Claire's slap was meant to silence Theo, but it gave me a voice. And I'll use it for him, for us, for every child who deserves to be heard. What would you do if your family hurt your child and laughed it off? Share your story. Subscribe if you've ever had to fight for someone vulnerable. Use your voice. Don't let them silence you.